Hey everyone, I'm Amy Connell. Thanks for tuning in to Lessons to My Teenage Self, a Christ-centered, diet culture-free show about all things health for teen girls. This is the shortcut you need to thrive in your physical, mental, and spiritual health. As a personal trainer and nutrition coach, I'm passionate about empowering you to find your best version of health. Each week, we dig into one topic I wish I had known as a teen. Both of my boys were athletes in high school. My older one played basketball and my younger one did track and cross country. I was at a track meet one time, and typically people will often run more than one event when they run track. Maybe they run a relay, or maybe they run like a 400 and an 800, but they'll often run more than one time when they're at a meet. So one of the athletes, and I don't even think that she was with our school, but one of the athletes was sitting with her parents in the bleachers next to me. And she was like, well, I need to eat. I'm getting ready to run. And they said, and the parents said, well, you need to eat some protein. And I have to tell you, it took all I had not to insert myself into these people's business. And it was none of my business. I have to remind myself all the time. I hear conversations and I tell myself, Amy, their conversation is none of your business. The reason I wanted to interject is, yes, protein is a wonderful macronutrient. It's one of the 3 macronutrients along with carbohydrates and fats. All 3 are important. All 3 are good to have. But protein right before you work out or right before you get ready to run at full throttle actually isn't the best thing to have. So that is something I wanted to talk to you some about today. I don't think I even had a clue when I was a teenager that what I eat impacts how I perform. I did a lot of different things, typically surrounding spirit squads. Any spirit athlete will tell you that yes, those are actually, you are athletes, you do work really hard. I just had no idea about my fueling. And quite honestly, when I was in school, that was the height of the fat-free craze, which meant everything and everybody was saying, don't eat fat, which was it was just dumb. It was so stupid and it was ill-informed, and we know better now. Dietary fat in your diet absolutely is good and has a lot of benefits. That's a different subject for a different time. But I had no clue that what I ate could actually impact how I performed and how I felt before, during, and after. That is what I want to talk about today. So if you're thinking, but Amy, isn't protein good for us? Shouldn't we be having protein? Yes, absolutely, you should. So I want to talk really quickly, high level, about what the 3 macronutrients do, and then give you some guidance for timing your food before you work out. And this is general guidance, obviously. You know your body best, so you have the authority to switch these up and change these up, but this is just a good general guidance. High level, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats are all 3 macronutrients. All food is part of one of those 3 macronutrients. Protein in general will help rebuild your muscles. Dietary fat provides satiety and also helps balance your hormones. And carbohydrates are converted into glucose, which is what fuels your system. Fat takes the longest to digest. Protein takes a little less long, and carbohydrates are digested the most quickly. Carbohydrates are actually broken down into 2 different types. You can have simple complex or complex carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates are those that have just one chain in them, and they are very quickly and easily digested and absorbed into your bloodstream. So that can be things like sugar, that can be things like some fruits like strawberries or watermelon or grapes. Some crackers are part of this, like maybe those are pretzels or oyster crackers, which I have just recently rediscovered, and I really love oyster crackers. Goldfish is another example of this, but basically these are carbohydrates that are very quickly broken down and uploaded into our bloodstream. Complex carbohydrates are those that have several different chains bound together, hence the word complex, and they take a little bit longer to digest. Complex carbohydrates include things like your beans, whole grains, other fruits, nuts. And I do want to just take a second to say that eating a variety of carbohydrates is a good thing. It gives you the full spectrum of value that they provide. Sometimes we need really quick carbohydrates. We need really quick energy, and sometimes we need it to last a little bit longer. So they both have a place in our diet, but the simple and complex do have some different purposes. In general, the closer to any kind of physical activity that you are, you want to consume more carbohydrates and less fat and protein. That's because our body can take the carbohydrates and very quickly and easily utilize them while we are exercising or immediately after. If you're in a 100-meter track race, then you're not going to really be digesting anything during those few seconds that you're running. But if you are in, say, cross country or soccer or basketball, your body's going to need to be able to use some energy, but it needs to be simple. It needs to be easily accessible. Dietary fat takes the longest to digest. This is a good thing to have in our body because it means it sticks with us for a while and we feel satiated, we feel full. And so dietary fat is a wonderful thing to have, but not necessarily right before you work out. The reason being is we don't want a lot of fuel sitting in our stomach when we're moving around. Often people may complain that, oh gosh, I had some really gross burps or I was throwing up or something like that. And it might be because they had too much dietary fat right before they exercised. I want to be very clear that I am not saying you should not have dietary fat. You absolutely should, but right before a workout is not ideal. Protein, on the other hand, is something that we can have a little bit of, but again, the closer we get to exercise, the more carbohydrates we want to have. Because protein also takes longer to digest, it might leave you feeling a little ick if your body is just not quite ready for that. Protein may not feel as heavy in our belly, so it's fine to have something with a little protein, but we don't necessarily want to have too much because your body isn't going to be able to utilize all of that protein as a primary energy source when you are exercising. Sometimes it's easier to make a point when you talk in extremes. If I were to give you a chicken breast right before you had an athletic event, you would have lots of quality protein. However, your body is not going to be able to process that and digest it and upload it into your bloodstream because it takes longer. It's harder. And so your body's going to be like, whatever, I'm going to deal with this later. I'm just going to use the energy that's in the body. Our body does have stored energy in it, but it only has a certain amount. Likewise, if we have a lot of dietary fat in our stomach, that too takes longer to digest. And so our body isn't going to be able to utilize that either. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, are intended to be easily accessible. Our body knows what to do with that and it can break it down a lot more easily. So what do we eat? Let's say you have school all day and then you have a soccer game that starts at 4 p.m. Lunch was several hours ago. You're not going to have dinner for a while. If it's something like 2 hours out, then I just recommend a variety of things. To have some carbohydrates, have some protein, have some dietary fat. So have the balance of all three of those macronutrients. As you get closer to that 4 p.m. game time, rely more heavily on carbohydrates. Maybe if it's an hour before, have some protein and a bit more carbohydrates and less dietary fat. So maybe that's like a turkey sandwich or an apple and some peanut butter. So yes, of course, there is some dietary fat in the peanut butter. There's dietary fat in cheese if you decide to put that on a turkey sandwich. but it's not so much that it's going to weigh ourselves down. You could even have some trail mix or maybe dried fruit or dried apricots and almonds. Again, you're getting some dietary fat in that, but it's not so much that it's going to make you not feel well. In general, if it does make you feel well, then don't have it. Just consider that a lesson learned. And then if you are right before a game, say it's 15 minutes before something starts and you realize all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I haven't eaten since lunch and I'm hungry. That is when you want to try and get any kind of carbohydrates in that you can. You will perform better with energy in your body than you will without. And they have done studies on this. They have done exercise science on this. If you have some energy in your body, you will perform better. So please don't go into an event or even working out on empty. So what's a carbohydrate you can have right before you work out? Honestly, this can differ, but I'm going to give you a couple examples and you can explore from there what works best for you. So maybe it's a banana, grapes, or watermelon. Maybe you don't have anything and you just get a bag of Skittles. And there are going to be people out there who say, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're saying we should have sugar. Yes. Guess what? Sugar is a simple carbohydrate that you can easily uptake and use to give you the energy that you need to perform your best. All Skittles all the time are probably not going to give our body the variety it needs to feel and function well, but I would rather you go in to an athletic event. And when I say event, I'm meaning if you play sports, if you work out, if you're going for a run, anything. I would rather you go in fed, having given your body fuel, than not having anything at all. So to answer today's question, what should I eat before I work out? The closer you are to moving, the higher concentration of carbohydrates you want to give your body so you can be fueled and you can function well and perform well. Next week, I'm going to be talking about what to eat after a workout because yes, we do have some nutritional science to go along with that. So I hope you come back and tune into what to eat after a workout. Okay, that is all for today. Take today's lesson and go out there and live the life God has for you and your amazing original body. Thanks for tuning in today. Do you have a question you would like answered here on the Lessons to My Teenage Self podcast? If so, go to the show notes where you will see an anonymous form you can fill out, and that question may be answered here on the show. Also, if this show is valuable to you, could you do one of two things that are enormously valuable to me? Number one, share it with a friend. Just take a screenshot, send it to her, or you can go to the show and send it straight from there. Also, if you can provide a rating and review, particularly if you listen to your podcast in Apple Podcasts. Thanks again and see you next time.